Hey guys, hope everybody was enjoying the week. Um, Man, there's been a bunch of stuff that I have wanted to talk about, and then it seems like with these broadcasts being on Tuesday, about Monday, God starts kind of narrowing stuff down, and then finally letting me know what exactly is going to happen Tuesdays or Wednesday morning if you're across the world. And really, that's just been wanting to reinforce hearing God talk, man, hearing for yourself and how He talks to people, because He talks to a lot of people differently, and it took me quite a while to really get that settled within myself. Because I mentioned before on one of my first broadcasts, God was talking to me and He told me not to worry about stepping into ministry, just focusing on where my heart is in Him. And then He will be my Don King to His Mike Tyson. Don King is like a legendary promoter for this boxer. I just thought that was kind of a weird one, a weird analogy I forgot to use, but you don't really mistake Don King. He's got like almost like a Marge Simpson haircut. he's one of a kind of guy. Maybe that's one reason. But how many people can God talk to like that in church? Not that I'm better, whatever. None of that. It's just, that's how God talks to me, man. That's just, and He's painted me into a corner. He's taken these fears that I have about different things, and then He just puts it on its head, man, spins it around and puts it back in a question right in my face, where I can't do anything about it. It's basically God asking you rhetorical questions that you already know the answer to because you're looking right at truth. What are you going to say to that? But the way He talks to me isn't how He talks to other people. And that's not to say that He talks to everybody all King Jamesy. What if He talks to somebody with a lisp like that? They're going to get all self-conscious and weird. Then. But, man, God's going to address you where you're at. It's not about a formula. It's not about seeing how God talks to other people. I mean, yeah, maybe that's part of your homework, but I'm signed up for the Family Prayer Center, daveroberson.org, for their newsletters, and every so often they just send out this email with stuff that God said through people lately, and it just sounds official, like all ironed out and prim and proper, and that's cool for some people, and I'm sure that's how a lot of people like to hear God. But not me. And like I said, man, God wants to meet you where you're at. I remember one time I was working at this other job, probably 3 or 4 years ago now. Well, yeah, over 4.5 years ago. And I was just minding my own business, driving home from work, just in the car listening to music, whatever. And then it was like from the back seat, just this booming voice, like somebody was there. Something big is going to happen next week. I just jumped. I kind of looked around to see what exactly that was, but I was driving by myself, so it's not like anybody else was going to hear it. And sure enough, exactly 7 days later, I was some stuff went down, and 8 or 9 days later, I ended up looking for another job. Details don't matter, it's how it played out. But God talked to me then, and that was that was like God is King. That one of those where you just get all weak-kneed and stumbly, and you don't want to mess with it. But man, I got dozens and dozens and dozens of conversations that I've written down and transcribed between God and I, where he's approaching me as a friend or as a therapist. And man, he's just being the most kind, gentle guy ever. It's not official. It's just, you know, when you got this friend that just needs a good cry or just broke up with their significant other, or, you know, whatever. It's, you just sit down, man, you just chill with them. And God knows exactly what to say. He takes his shortcut straight to somebody's heart. And you can't refute it because it's God. Which brings me to my next point, being able to assess the issues within yourself. I mean, if God is if God is wanting you to lighten up on other drivers on the highway on your way home from work, or my way home from work, because you just fly off the handle because somebody's in the fast lane going 5 under the speed limit, and all you want to do is go home, and you just start getting angry. You know, in retrospect, I feel kind of stupid about it, but you know, whatever. But if I don't see anything wrong with that, with me just flying off the handle about something as stupid and petty as that God wants me to deal with, what's he got to say? Man, if I can't honestly give myself just a completely impartial, neutral, unbiased self-evaluation and be like, hey, this isn't a very good trait to have, then how can God's got no beachhead to start working with me on. I mean, yeah, there's some things where God's like, hey, this is an issue, and then there's this laundry list of other issues that you're working on that you didn't even see that one God brought up. But where's your heart at? Do you want to get better? Do you want to clear out the way between you and God and let God come in a little more? It's like man, I had a real hard time for a while giving up some stuff in my past that really, really defined who I became, how I thought, how I perceived myself. And God was wanting me to move on from that. And that was kind of hard because it was, you know, it's like those elementary school trophies that remind you how good you used to be. But, you know, they were just milestones, and those, they had a foothold in my soul that was able to have a real stranglehold on my emotions. And that's why God was wanting me to get rid of them. But I saw them as part of my identity. And I was not ready to. That was something that I went back and forth with God about for probably 1.5 years. And then when I finally realized he wasn't going to change and just let go, I was finally able to just cut those ties. But look at yourself like a pie chart. You know, this whole big circle is just all Pete. And you don't add on to a pie chart. You just work with the space you have within those parameters. Man, if I'm 100% Pete and 0% God, God's got nowhere to start. I got to start giving away little pieces here and there from that pie chart, little slivers at a time, to make room for God, so he can start building up a little nest and help me grow up. It's as simple as that. Like, I must decrease so he can increase. Good old John the Baptist, people trying to play on his pride, and he just knocked that right in the head, just like that, when Jesus was baptizing people in the same river as him. And man, we don't have to be ready to part with anything in our lives at the time. We got to be able to label it as something that's not godly, or something that's separating us from God, we have to at least address it like that so God can talk to us about it at least. Man, there's been some things he has spent years, months, just long periods of time with me on, just going back and forth, man. Kind of like a tug of war, but like tug of war with a kid. Because you know God is going to win if that kid keeps it. You know, it's pretty one-sided, but God's a good sport about playing along. It just boils down to a heart issue. Are we ready to let God point out things to us so we can move on? Sometimes there's some stuff we're not, but it's growth, man. You don't become an adult overnight. I remember probably 8 or 10 months ago, God showed me this picture of just a little kid just crying, scared, alone in a prison cell. And then he said that was me in my own soul. Man, who I really am, I just locked up, threw away the key. And that's who God is trying to get to now. He's got to dig down past all of my pride, all of my fear, everything, so he can get to that scared little kid. He gave me that picture, and then he asked for my permission to go for it. If he could take another step deeper into my life so that he could help me rescue that scared little kid I've been harboring inside. Man, that was a blow to my pride. But if anything's going to take a punch, I'd rather be that than finding out at the end of my life that everything I was doing was wrong. Yeah. So it's really not that hard to hear God talk. But man, look at it like this. I've been watching a lot of American football just because I'm an American guy, I guess. It's just how it is. But if there's a football game on Channel 9, and I tuned to Channel 6 thinking there's going to be a football game there, and there's not. If I call up Channel 6 and give them a piece of my mind for not having the football game on, you know whose fault they're going to tell me that is? Mine. God has always got something to say, but we aren't always tuned into him. Man, what channel are we on? Because a lot of the time, it's not God. And if we want to ask why we can't hear him, the answer starts in here. It don't start where you go to church or anything else. Man, it starts with the walls that we put up. So look at your own heart, man. That's where God's got to start with you. That's where he starts with me. Everybody. And it's really, really important to be able to hear him talk. I was on my way to work this morning, and every once in a while I just kind of follow up with some preachers that have mostly good things to say, but they sneak in some crap every once in a while. And this guy was talking about Ananias and Sapphira and the judgment in Acts when all these people were selling their goods and just bringing the money to the apostles, and nobody lacked anything, and everything was good, and God was there, and thousands were being saved and added to the church. And this guy said that once we get saved, there is no sin. What? Of course, I mean, I had just woken up like 30 minutes before, so I had to listen to it like 6 times just to make sure exactly what I was hearing. But, dude, there's crap like that getting taught all over the world. And God's not the one saying it. There is still a sin. once we get saved. It's a matter of pushing ourselves out of our body and letting Jesus come fill us up and just do his thing, just like he did in the New Testament, man, all over the Gospels. So in the process of pushing ourselves out of the way, there might be one or two of us that screw up. Certainly not me. Maybe. Okay, I do. But, man, you got to be able to hear God inside you to let you know that a lot of things that people say are crap. And he was telling me just recently, man, I need to be real sure of where I'm at in him, in life, and my ability to hear him, and knowing that I'm on his path. Because there's going to be a lot of people that just basically say, I'm just chugging along in the grain, and then they T-bone me with their revelation or their knowledge or intellect or whatever. And it doesn't even have to be people that are maliciously wrong. Man, it can just be people trying to be good that are just trapped in religion somehow, that don't know any better. And that's when it's real important to know the difference between somebody that's just trying to pull you off course and somebody that dim-witted seems rude, but it also seems really accurate. Dim-witted person that the devil is manipulating with dreams and visions and feelings and emotions, trying to pull you off course in the name of the Lord. Man, it doesn't matter how God talks to you as long as it's him. Because there is a lot of times, there's a lot of counterfeits. Man, a lot of times things will just jump out there before God says anything, and they'll pass themselves off as God. Well, they'll try to. Like, Elisha, one of the prophets, he was chilling in this cave, waiting for God, and there was, like, all these weather manifestations, just extreme. And then all of a sudden, there was just this cool little breeze. And the prophet's like, oh, hey, God, what's going on? God isn't in a hurry, man. He's not trying. He's got nothing to prove to you. So, all these things, man, that accompany a sense of urgency, that appeal to your emotions. If you miss it, just because you waited to make sure it was God, it'll come around again. God ain't going to crucify you for doing something like that. If all you want to do is make sure it's him, man, take your time. There is absolutely no rush. God's got eternity. Yeah, we'll miss some things. There have been plenty of times where I have missed things just because I wasn't completely sure it was God. Yesterday, I was just at work, minding my own business, just doing my thing, and then God just like in passing, casual conversation, he's like, oh, hey, go with your wife to this potluck thing tomorrow night, or tonight, that was yesterday and last night. And to be honest, I wasn't real excited about it at first, because it's got to do with this thing she's doing for school, and I was just not exactly, I didn't think it was my kind of place. So I sent Carrie a message when I was taking a break. I was like, hey, is this thing open to the public? And if you don't know, a potluck is where everybody brings some food and it's delicious. That is pretty much how I got by when I was single. If there was a potluck, buffet, any kind of get-together, picnic, dude, I was there. So it's still hard for me to turn those down. But yeah, I sent Carrie a message, just sent her a text on my break, asking if this was like an open door thing or if it was just for people in that, whatever it was. And she was like, no, it's cool, come if you want. Until she was kind of surprised. And I was like, well, Well, I think God told me to go, but I don't really want to. So if you can talk to God too and see, that'd be cool. And long story short, I ended up tagging along with her, dressed up just like this, man. It was a bunch of older people, real traditional, good old country boys and girls. But yeah, you tell them when I first got there, out of like the 40, 50 people there, we were about 30, 40, 50 years younger than everybody else. And then this hooligan, me, shows up in a backwards hat and a sweatshirt. And you can tell I was wearing pants too, by the way. You can tell they were sizing me up. Whatever. But by the time the food rolled around and everybody was getting social, man, I had a blast chatting with those people and just talking with them, and it was a lot of fun. And of course, it was a potluck, so it's all you can eat, and I ended up eating way too much. I got like 5 hours of sleep because I was just laying in bed with like an anvil in my stomach. It was awesome. We were driving home from it. And I was like, so you think that really was God? We ended up agreeing it was, but I hope nobody that listens to me at this point thinks that I am always 100% confident of when I can hear God, because I'm not. Less and less it's getting to be a chance. Like, I'll just hear something, I'll just have to size it up. But, that happens less and less now, but we're all on a journey, man. You grow through experience. There's a lot of people in their 30s, 40s, 50s that still act like they're in junior high. Man, they still got the blinders on to their own emotional problems. And you can tell, dude, inside, they're acting like a 12-year-old still. That's how they see the world. Age isn't what makes you grow up. And it's the same thing with learning to hear God. And the more you grow up in God, the less of you're going to see in yourself. The way God broke it down to me when I was really, really apprehensive about giving up those parts of me that meant something to my past, he told me to look at it like a stained glass window. The light's all the same, but you look at this stained glass window, the sun is the source of light, but there's different shades to represent the whole picture. And that's one way you can break down seeing the body of Christ. I still have my individuality through that hue that I'm representing in that stained glass window. And that made it a lot easier for me to swallow when I heard God. But I still had to give it up. And that's the part that wasn't easy. Like peeling away an onion, man. There is going to be tears. So I hope you're not too manly or too proud to just hand yourself over to God, man. To just be bare before God. It's not like you can hide anything from Him anyway. But don't hear God through other people. Hear God for yourself and let other people confirm what He's saying. Otherwise, you're going to start thinking there's no sin once you get into Jesus, once you become part of the family. And that ain't the case, man. It's not a matter of not sinning. It's not a matter of living your life and just changing the label from sin to not sin just because you got saved. It's a matter of not sinning, making a deliberate point to not sin. Man, you think Jesus couldn't have not sinned? It was his heart. It was that new nature. It was his love for God, and then that subsequent love for people. That was what kept him from sinning, man. He had things in the right perspective. And that's what we're learning to attain to. Less of us, more of him. But, man, don't be in a rush to hear God, man. It's okay to be methodical about it and narrow down things and learn by mistake. There was one time I was just praying, just chilling on the couch, feet up, just praying in tongues, just, whatever. And then I heard to call this friend of mine. So I did. I was expecting them to just have the worst day ever, like for their arm to have gangrene or something, something real severe to warrant pulling me out of prayer. So I'm calling them, and they're like, hello? I was just trying to feel it out. I was like, hey, what's going on? Thinking I was going to open the floodgates, Like, oh, nothing, just playing with my phone, just doing whatever, chilling. I was like, what have you been doing with yourself lately? So they tell me, and then there's this long pause where I find out that was not God. So, stuff like that, man, it's okay to screw up. Stuff like God telling you to pack up, sell the rest of what doesn't fit in your car, and move across the country. That's something you need to make sure is God. Man, there was one time 4 years or so ago, I was thinking real hard about moving to Texas. And I was thinking real hard about it. Like I was ready and I was chomping at the bit. It took a little come to Jesus chat with some real good friends of mine. They had to have me sit down in their office and just tell me that was not God, for me to see it in the right perspective, because I was just so caught up in the momentum and the thrill of change, and I was just trying to force God into it. It's okay to take your time on decisions like that as you learn to hear God. But as long as you're learning, that's the important thing. And the easiest ways to hear him is pray in tongues. Man, that expands the conduit that he can use to chat with you, because you find that place in you where he talks, and then you start zeroing in on it, and then you can focus on it, and it starts spreading, and it just gets easier and easier to go back and forth with God. And then there's worship, just being in his presence. Man, letting your thoughts and everything that tries to distract you from God, just letting that melt. And just being with God. Just getting everything else shut down. And then fasting. Just not eating. Honestly, you can pair that up with other stuff like praying in tongues. It's whatever. I kind of like it just because it's so passive, and I can do whatever I want as long as I don't eat, and I just kind of chat with God. Man, you start picking a fight with your emotions, and you find out how much farther you got to go with God, or to get to more of God. How much more of yourself you have to overcome to get more of God. Let's say it that way. But man, those emotions start flaring up, and then you learn how to push them away. You put them in their place. You end up getting some power over them. And then you can just put your foot on them when you're waiting to hear God, man. You don't hear these screams of fear and doubt and insecurity and all these questions that come up every time you hear God, because there's always going to be, man. But the important thing is just get confident in knowing that you heard God. I think that's all I got. So, thanks for tuning in. I'm going to take the next couple weeks off because I got some things going on, some family stuff. So, if things change, then I'll ambush you with a broadcast somewhere in there. Otherwise, I think the first week of February. Yeah, 2 weeks from now. So, we will we'll chat again soon. Love you guys, and hope you're doing well. See ya.